My name is Julien. I've been 9 years at Google, half of the time here in Europe, half of the time in California, more or less, half of the time launching technologies in local markets like Street View or YouTube, some difficult technology sometimes to launch. The other half working within the security teams in Mountain View, assessing how we communicate security, our security challenges. For those of us who are working very close to technology, and I think this is all of us today, we all know how confusing and how difficult it can be to forecast anything in technology adoption. Typically it's easier to focus and try to identify a fundamental trend. We say in French, tendance lourde, and then try to see how whatever technology comes sticks with that fundamental trend. I picked one for today, and you know, it's this trend from individual activity to collective intelligence. And if you're, depending on your appetite on philosophical discussions, you can immediately see that this trend goes back a long way, before humans. And whatever you want to, even if you're not interested into the philosophical discussion, you will agree that in the last years we have seen a lot of change happen on that, along that trend. So from the arrival of the search engines, different of them, you know, allowing us to tap into the collective intelligence and collective memory of the world, the social networks allowing us to interact a lot and exchange with friends that we will maybe not see anymore in our lives, but they remain friends. All the way to cloud platforms that abolish silos within companies and make data available that was, you know, until yesterday just on the other side of the world, but completely inaccessible. Finally, to real-time collaboration platform. You know, these tools that allow you to solve problems immediately on the fly in the taxi while your team is in America just before the customer meeting. These things can happen nowadays. So this collaborative direction is not necessarily in sync with this kind of picture. Now, I'll get to the picture in a minute. Now, what fascinates me about this is one of the cornerstones of this collective direction is an extremely private, extremely personal device, the mobile phone. We are not going to do it today, but we often do a thought exercise, you know, with smaller groups. And to help people understand how private this has all become, we basically ask everybody in the room, do you have a mobile phone? Everybody has a mobile phone. Can you please take it out of your pocket, unlock it? The screen is on. Now pass it to your neighbor. Okay? This is how personal technology has become. Now, if this is not enough of an example, the last 4 years, you know, we mingled a lot with other families in Palo Alto where we're living. My son was a best friend with a small Israeli kid, and they had 4 children in that family, and they had an Alexa device, you know, this Amazon device, and this, you see the equivalent here, Google Home, which is this kind of speaker that also becomes the interface of your life, you know, with technology. I don't have one of those at home. I was personally a little bit neutral to skeptical about this kind of thing. I promise you, when you put this in your living room, this will become your next child in the family. The intensity of the interaction with that device was just disturbing for me, being maybe a little bit on the other side of the fence, on the age side already. But this is going to be really this new interface. You know, if you thought mobile phones were the ultimate intrusion, or, you know, however you would build your relationship with mobile phones, This is bringing it to the next level. Now, as we kind of realize that these technologies are becoming sort of an extension of ourselves, and we get accustomed to that, and we allow for this technology to be, using the information that it gathers, all of a sudden this also opens new doors, new possibilities. And we believe that it triggers, for example, the possibility to interact much more naturally with technology. And we will, I'll go in a couple of examples about that one. It also allows to automate a lot of the tasks that you used to do, and you can then focus on more productive, more elevated tasks. Ultimately, this technology allows you to become a real personal assistant and anticipate on what you will need, anticipate on the information you will need before you even know you are going to need it. If you think that this is the future, whether or not you welcome it, there is a sentence, there is a saying, the future is now. It's just not very evenly distributed. You can already do many of these things, and I will just pick a few of the Google products or Google examples, but of course you will find the equivalent in many other technology platforms available. If you store your personal photos online today, you probably have anything between 10,000 to 50,000 photos on a disk somewhere. If you want to search through these photos through traditional, I would say machine or keyboard kind of strokes, this will not work. If you're not using Google Photos, I recommend you try it out. You can search on Google Photos just by mentioning what you're looking for. Me, my wife, the mountains, my wife in the mountains, it all comes up. When we launched it a year ago or a year and a half ago, it was a great deal that we could differentiate between a cat and a dog. Today, Google Photos differentiates between 30 different breeds of dogs. We're not teaching that to the system is teaching itself to recognize cats and dogs. So the natural communication, voice-enabled, of course, to technology becomes very close all of a sudden, and you see it coming. If you're using Gmail, who in the room is using Gmail? Thank you. Okay, decent. Okay, well, that makes sense. If you're using Gmail, you might have been using Inbox for Gmail. Who is using Inbox for Gmail? Oh, wow. Wow, thank you very much. This is really fantastic. Now, Inbox for Gmail has this interesting feature that when you receive an email, it understands the purpose of the email and automatically proposes you 3 answers. So that, the cadence at which you receive emails per day, you receive the email and you automatically receive a couple of possible answers, and then you just tap on one and it answers at the tap of a finger whatever you more or less meant to answer. Of course, because it connects to your calendar, this is not yet done, but is coming very soon. When you receive a request for a meeting, one of the answers will propose the next possible slot for the meeting. So automating all these tasks that are really, burdening your day. Another technology on the predictive side that we announced in October is Springboard, which is a tool that we propose to organizations to anticipate on the kind of document that you will need today. It knows what you did yesterday. It knows more or less the meetings that you have today. It knows if you have time to work or you don't have time to work, you'll be meeting all day that are unrelated to that document. But anyhow, when you come in the morning, there are the documents available that you very likely will be needing to get on to your work today. No more fumbling into your folders hierarchy and trying or not finding the latest version of your documents. So this is all interesting examples of technology available today, your choice whether or not you adopt it or not. And the second point I want to make is change does not come through technology. Change comes through the use of technology or how this technology is being used. We conducted a research with the Economist Intelligence Unit earlier this year, and we found out that out of all the companies that have already adopted the cloud, so that's only a fraction of the rest of the companies, out of all these companies, only 20% of these companies are actually using the cloud to change the way they work. The large majority of these companies or organizations are using the cloud a little bit the same way that they were doing it before. And of course, this is not really the purpose. When you look at these few amount of organizations that were able to think differently about how they interact, and the kind of reach and the kind of possibilities that they unleash all of a sudden, it really opens new horizons. Pokemon Go, we were debating earlier on the benefit or non-benefit of Pokemon Go on our family balance recently. So that's something else we can talk about after. But Pokemon Go gained 50 million users in 3 days. Can you imagine what you could do if you could reach 50 million people in 3 days? This is the kind of new possibilities that these technologies allow if you allow them to take place. You can then solve big problems, bigger problems. An example is, if you've been around using email in the 90s, and I see in the room we are more or less all in the case, which is a rare opportunity for me. But you will remember how in the 90s, spam was actually threatening the use of email as such. There was so much spam that we were wondering if email would survive as a communication tool. If you are a Gmail user today, you have less than 0.01% of spam in your inbox. It's not that there is less spam online. There's never been more spam than today, and it's still increasing by 4 to 5% per year. It is through the application of machine learning or advanced computing that the systems are able to understand better what is spam and what is not spam, and deliver you exactly what you want to remain efficient through the day. Another example that we just applied to ourselves, and I think it will apply to many of you running your own infrastructures and data centers, is the application of machine learning to cooling, for example, in our own data centers. Now, it's not that we were idle on trying to solve the cooling issues in our data centers or the energy consumption in data centers. Actually, I think today we deliver 3.5 times more computing power per energy unit than we used to 5 years ago. So we are always improving on these capabilities. But when we used machine learning, when we trained a neural model to learn how to cool our data centers, just by activating that technology on the system, we were reducing energy consumption by 40%. So energy consumption for cooling purpose, I need to be precise. But still, it reduced the overall energy consumption of our data centers by 15%. So the kind of problems that if you allow technology to use all that information that you make available through the device and the technology that you use, you can actually tackle. And then of course, as a public organization, or maybe just as a citizen, as an engaged citizen too, you can make this kind of platform, this kind of technology available to others. And I want to highlight here Saildrone. Saildrone is a startup I came across in Palo Alto. They're just across the bay. It's a Brit and a Belgian. And they manufacture sailboats, automated sailboats, that now sail around all the oceans, gathering data that could only previously be gathered by very expensive, almost military expeditions, through the oceans, millions of dollars a day or a week to gather the information. Now you have these self-supported sail drones roaming across the ocean, getting all the information that we were lacking and that we need to solve or address large issues like water level changes, climate changes, fisheries depletion, just by finding positive ways and optimist ways. Waves is the picture to use this technology. So I want to wrap on that and just mention these tools that we are making are indeed changing ourselves, and it can be a little bit intimidating sometimes. But end of the day, really, we of course really believe at Google that technology is on our side. And embracing these changes will just be for the greater good. Thank you very much.